This is the E-Commerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Welcome to the E-Commerce Braintrust podcast. I'm Julie Spear, Head of Retail Marketplace Services at Acadia, alongside my co-host, Jordan Ripley, Director of Retail Operations. Today, we're bringing back our dear friend, Ross Walker, Director of Retail Media, also here at Acadia, to discuss a lot of surprising findings from his work over the past few years with a large beauty brand and a case study that he recently pulled together on our favorite, full funnel advertising, highlighting the importance of the evolution of streaming TV. And making his E-Commerce Braintrust podcast debut is our new Director of Retail Strategy here at Acadia, Pat Petriello. Pat, welcome. Ross, nice to have you back.
Awesome. Super excited to be here. Thank you, guys. I mean, listen, I feel like you're making me famous here. And honestly, this is an exciting one. There's lots of good stuff to get into. So yeah, it's awesome. Happy to be here.
Pat, this is where you can say longtime listener, first time caller.
Unprompted.
The window's still open.
we crave that acknowledgement.
First time, long time.
Okay.
We won't get into time on this episode.
All right. Well, speaking of common sayings, longtime listener, first time caller, full funnel. That is one of the phrases that is thrown about willy-nilly for use of another phrase in our space. And we can kind of agree what it means, but to get us started, I would love for you, Ross, to put flag in the sand. How do you define full funnel? And are there different degrees of commitment to full funnel, adherence to your full funnel philosophy by brand, whether it's by investment amount, whether it's by the maturity of other campaigns that they have running? Walk us through. How would you define full funnel?
It's a great question. It's a really broad one to really start the day on. I'd say the best way to think of it is full funnel being different advertising campaigns, really with different goals. So at the bottom of the funnel, the goal is, for the most part, especially in the Amazon space, loyalty, or turning a purchaser into a subscriber, turning a one-time purchaser into a multiple-time purchaser, turning a low-value customer into a high-value customer. That's kind of the bottom rung of the funnel. And at the other extreme is building brand new awareness of your brand for someone who's never been exposed before. Between those two extremes is the full funnel experience. I think that's probably the simplest way to frame it.
There's like a distinction here that I feel like is changing over the last 18 months, 2 years, which is the idea of sort of like on-platform full funnel and off-platform full funnel, where I think we've had this sense of on Amazon full funnel, right? I'm going to do some sponsored display. I'm going to try to like get people that are maybe in market but haven't been exposed to my brand before. And then there's this idea of almost brand advertising, right? Like the full funnel of now I'm programmatic and I'm buying media that is traditionally not performance related. Do you feel like as full funnel changed, if I say full funnel now and I'm a brand, is the assumption that I'm doing programmatic brand buying, or what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the definition hasn't really changed. Like if I go back to first completing my Amazon DSP certification courses an eon ago, they framed it in this way. But I think the practice day to day for most people was very different. They probably always envisioned this sort of like off-platform brand building machine as what they were aiming for and what brands is the best use of Amazon's technology. But I think for a lot of brands and a lot of advertising practitioners, full funnel could very much just be, to your point, all on platform, all on Amazon, in the Amazon ecosystem advertising, and not going beyond, not going outside those bounds.
Yeah, I think it is interesting. You talk about the on-platform and especially the focus on Amazon. You can talk to brands at conferences or wherever, and they'll say to you, I have a full funnel marketing approach going on. They're actually just talking about search. And they're saying, yeah. I have a full funnel approach in search because I'm not just bidding on branded terms, or I'm not just using sponsored products. I'm using sponsored brands and sponsored brand video and sponsored display. And therefore I am doing full funnel. Whereas if you might ask the folks here, we might say, well, that might actually not be the full of the full funnel in the way that we might define it. So I think to Ross's point, like we have this definition, but when you actually talk to practitioners and then actually see where are you allocating your budget, like are we speaking to full funnel? Are you actually adopting and executing against full funnel? And oftentimes there's a lot of space between those two.
I think Amazon has also positioned some of its, especially streaming TV, especially Prime Video, it's positioned those opportunities to advertise as the upper end of the funnel. For a lot of brands, they think about Prime Video as like, okay, yeah, it's still part of the Amazon ecosystem because you don't have to be a Prime member to be watching. You do. You have to be a Prime member to be watching Prime Video. But Amazon wants its access to streaming TV inventory is really broad. It's not just Amazon owned and operated streaming TV channels. There are many, many others, some of which perform very well. They run the gamut, as would all streaming TV buys.
Yeah, I will get into that. That brings up, I suppose, another important part of exposition for this episode, which is along with full funnel, we'll be talking a lot about streaming TV. And for those not super deep in the media buying weeds, streaming TV as compared to Prime Video, as compared to connected TV. When we say streaming TV, what are the components of that? Where are the bounds of a streaming TV campaign?
Amazon used to call streaming TV OTT or over-the-top video. And that was hearkening back to traditional TV buys or linear media buys, where like you would have an advertisement that came in over the top of your programming and you couldn't skip. It was like unavoidable, unskippable advertising when you're watching, I don't know, cartoons. Whatever it is, you might find yourself watching.
Sure, why not?
That has changed. That ecosystem has changed a ton. And so now what Amazon calls streaming TV is a basket of things. There's programs that are consumed while on a connected TV. So a television where you're actively streaming some television. It's not using traditional cable or satellite. So there's that like streaming aspect of it, which many of us are used to. And that overlaps basically one-to-one with what a lot of the advertising industry calls CTV or connected TV. Amazon has done a bit of what it always does here, which is to brand something that everyone is already doing with its own name to like separate it. ACOS, ROAS.
Yeah.
CTV is STV, STV is CTV really for the most part. And the only difference here is Amazon, they're a publisher. They own the channel where the programs are running, like Prime Video or Freevee or IMDb TV, that other CTV providers don't have access to. And that's Amazon's unique in this arena.
Should we ask for one more definition before we get to the case study?
Maybe just all definitions. That's sort of a Merriam-Webster episode. I like this. No, let's do the case study. Thank you, Julia, for keeping us on track so that we actually make some forward progress here. So yeah, let's get into it. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this case study is just having seen lots of case studies both internally and externally over the years. I think there's this tendency to, we did something cool with the brand, we implemented it, performance looks like this now, let's go on and test the next thing. But what was interesting here, at least to me about this particular case study, is it focuses on streaming TV over a considerable arc of time. We did a campaign focused on streaming TV back in 2023. We did another one in 2024. The results are fundamentally different. The tactics are fundamentally different. The measurements fundamentally different. So I would love to just set the stage with 2023 STV and then 2024 STV, and we'll dive into each of these. But what are the big things that changed over that arc of time?
Yeah, I would say there's three core differences here. One of them harkens back to the use of full funnel. I'll start with supply. The first difference is in supply. So last year, we bought streaming TV for this brand using Amazon's kind of off-the-shelf streaming TV inventory. And that's a basket of inventory that's available across Freevee, Paramount Plus, Discovery, HGTV, like a whole bunch of publishers, both Amazon owned and non. This year, we really focused in on three specific types of inventory that are not the off-the-shelf variants, because we didn't love the experience last year. So we wanted to try something new. So the first one is something called Prime Video Premier. So it's a subset or a basket of inventory available on Prime Video, but essentially only for the shows that are exclusive to Prime Video. So if you're like there tuning into their premium inventory, then you're getting served these ads. And we were like, premium product, premium inventory, premium customer, premium results was like the thought process.
It just wrote itself.
Yeah, right, exactly. We also tested something called Streaming TV Plus. So that's, again, a curated basket of inventory that Amazon has that's available, but also includes some Prime Video inventory too. So we were just really testing this idea that the premium inventory would be better. And then we tested something new, which is we work with our Amazon partner to develop a custom deal for the brand. And it's called a Shopper Insights deal. And we give them who the brand is, what categories they're in, what is the core product that we're advertising. And then they do an analysis and they say, okay, your core customer is watching these networks. And they give us a basket of networks that are our customers most likely to be watching. So we tested those 3 supply sources. That was supply source. That was the difference year on year. The second piece that was different was we had like a lot better retargeting this year of viewers of the streaming TV campaign than we had in the past. So one of our insights from 2023 was that people who were exposed to multiple ads tended to perform better. The purchase rate was higher if they saw a streaming TV ad and engaged with a sponsored product ad or something along those lines. So we wanted to create more of that. So more of our budget went into retargeting our streaming TV viewers with further ads to like really close the gap and keep the brand top of mind. And then the third one is this year, we didn't just use the off-the-shelf Amazon audience segments. So last year, we really focused on the in-market audience segments that made the most sense for the brand. This year, we used some of those in-market segments, but we used AMC lookalike audiences. We used competitor viewer audiences. So like anyone that had viewed our top competitor, we made sure we targeted them. Like I mentioned before, we retargeted viewers of our ads. And we also targeted lookalike audience customers who are most likely to be a member of the brand. So there are 3 big core differences year over year.
Yeah. Okay. So you have you're like buying different inventory, you're targeting differently. There's a measurement component as well, like the way that we're actually assessing this.
One of the things we found, and I don't know why, but last year we found we were expecting to see a lot more of a multi-touch approach. People who were exposed to our STV ads would later engage with our sponsored product ads before they made a purchase. We thought we would just have like a larger basket of consumers, and we didn't. We knew this year we needed to like bring people into the funnel more. This is that harkening back to the full funnel piece. Someone who views an STV ad, like the journey isn't done. That was a key signal for us to understand how we should retarget those people and try and bring them in and bid more for them. So we're even bidding more for those viewers with our sponsored ads now with sponsored product behavioral modifiers than we weren't able to do that last year. So that was net new. And we're using AMC to even better tie that all together. So AMC is helping us understand not just the first touch, but the last touch attribution.
I think what's really important here too, and I think this will be a common thread throughout, something that this group and we'll probably talk about for the rest of the year, is the multiplier effect that Ross was just talking about in terms of the traditional metrics that have been used for the bottom of funnel ad campaigns. And so when we have these conversations and brands talking about, but my ACOS, but my ROAS, maybe looking at just those bottom of funnel campaigns and they say, oh, I ran STV or ran something upper funnel. I didn't really see an impact. Is this really working? And then what Ross saw was that all of our highest purchase rate funnels in this case study were multi-touch, meaning we hit the customer with different ad modules along the way. And each one of those that had multiple touch points, those were the ones that performed the highest. And if you weren't using AMC, if you weren't looking at those multiple touch points, you would just say, I guess I spent up here, I deployed media up here, and it didn't really work. But then when you can actually make the connection to what did it do to my bottom of funnel campaigns and how much it accelerated their performance, it's undeniable, the multiplier effect of saying what I'm investing here with the left hand is feeding the right hand. And again, going back to this full funnel, these things are all connected.
The magic of unlocking with AMC, for sure, getting those insights. Moving from that magic to other magic. I'm working on my segues here. And getting into tactical magic. One of the things that Amazon is kind of leading the industry in is how they integrate lower funnel performance type creatives with upper funnel placements. You can see this when there's like a QR code that viewers can scan or the ability to add directly to cart when you're watching on a connected smart TV and you're signed into your Amazon account. How do you guys recommend brands successfully integrate this functionality into their campaigns based on what we're seeing in this case in particular?
Yeah, this was a net new for us too. In 2023, we ran kind of like it was a standard television ad, essentially. It did say available on Amazon at the end, but that was pretty much the only engagement that it had in the content itself. This year, we actually ran 2 different versions of the creative. One of them had a big QR code and a headline on it. So people could actually scan to like get more information and go right to the product detail page to either add the product to cart or purchase it or what have you. That was like the first iteration. And then basically right on the eve of the campaign launching, Amazon said, we're deprecating that feature. You're going to have to use a whole new type, which actually it's now the new DSP interactive video type, which is actually better. The QR code looks nicer, the headline looks nicer, the interaction features are nicer, and you have even better metrics now tracking engagement with ads. And what that does, and this is, I think, what's really powerful now, is you have a top of funnel advertising type, the streaming TV. Someone is not browsing to buy. They're not on Amazon. They're just watching their favorite episode of Jack Reacher again. And now you have a creative that they're being exposed to, which actually has an engagement metric tied to it. So what percentage of people are going to click on that QR code, whip out their phone, add the product to cart, or opt to find out more about the product at that time? Well, I can tell you from this campaign, it's a lot more than the previous ad types by a large margin. So engagement was higher, ROAS was higher, add to cart was higher, brand search was higher. By just about every metric, this campaign was like now more effective. I think a big part of it was that creative type.
I think this is so interesting to me because there's a sort of traditional marketer's thought of you can do brand marketing or you can do performance marketing, but you don't do both at the same time. And I feel like that just does not compete with Amazon's DNA, where it's like, yeah, we'll start advertising in the brand space, but we're still going to give you a QR code or a CTA so we can measure down the funnel. And it's always like, yeah, but how many sales did I have? And it's a sort of Amazon mentality of like, at the end of the day, how many dollars did this drive a day? And it's a sort of like intermediary where it's like Amazon's approach to brand marketing.
So the results of the case study were really good. I think it was like a 3x improvement in ROAS. Oh, I forget. Massive improvement in branded search as a result of people watching these ads. But for upper funnel metrics, in terms of engagement that the ad drew, the metrics were better year over year. But in terms of lower funnel metrics too, more people were actually engaging with the ad itself than the creative we had last year. So that's at like upper and lower funnel metrics happening at the same time. I want to say partially because the targeting was better, partially because the inventory was better, partially because the creative was better. So all of those things together, it's like both the media and the message. But I think what's really interesting is it wasn't just that the ad metrics alone were better. When you include the AMC sort of multi-funnel attribution, the total quantity of purchases almost doubled. So you have half the iceberg is above the water in terms of the effectiveness of this campaign, but so much downstream, almost 100 doubling of the total purchases came from these downstream engagements that came later after someone saw the ad. And we're actually seeing some of that now. So this campaign really just came to a close after about 3 months of running. And there's like some lagging generation of awareness now that's like playing in. So we're seeing search volume is up. We're seeing purchases are up more year over year now, actually, even after the campaign has ended, because we've got this big pool of people that we're retargeting.
It's interesting too, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of any brands who might be listening to this podcast and listening to us right now going, okay, did these guys cherry pick a case study because it had good results? And like, is this an outlier? And I couldn't help myself. So I was like, let me go see if I can find some more data that either corroborates or doesn't what Ross is showing here. And it corroborates it, which is to say, you're thinking to yourself, I'm a brand, I'm going to spend on streaming TV. And Jordan, to your point about brand and performance, and do these folks really come back and shop and browse and buy? And 80% of ad exposed streaming TV viewers browse on Amazon, which meaning 80% of the people who are watching end up go back and browsing on Amazon. 77% of ad exposed streaming TV viewers purchase on Amazon. So you're talking a massive, and those numbers are from Amazon ads. I didn't pull them from thin air, I promise. Those are massive engagement numbers. And you're like, okay, well, is the reach there? There's over 175 million average monthly US reach of Amazon ads supported in streaming TV. So you're reaching a ton of folks. We hear this word, talks about buzzwords, Julie, incrementality at full funnel. Am I actually reaching new people? And then I think, Ross, I think it was you who said it. One of the things that a really key takeaway of this is increase the amount of branded search that came back. So pure demand generation. I think we as brands focus a lot on like, how do I capture this demand that's already on the platform? And it's like, that is fighting in the most competitive component of the funnel. And what you're doing here is actually like bringing new people to the party who end up from a CAC standpoint, from a customer acquisition cost standpoint, some of our cheapest customers. I mean, this is true brand building. This is kind of the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes your performance team look good, which is.
And when they realize that, they're like, no, actually, continue to do some of that stuff. Yeah.
I think you've teed up a potential new show series, though, of case studies where it went all wrong. I like that. I teed that all up.
I feel like it's an opportunity there where you can build trust with the audience by being like, let's be real. You can learn just as much from this stuff. And my last thought there, because I think you guys did a great job of drawing this distinction between 2023 and 2024. There's this test and learn mentality that exists in our industry. But maybe the third part of that should be test and learn and test again. Yeah. Because if you tried something in 2023, especially something brand new, and maybe it wasn't great, your two choices are walk away and say, okay, streaming TV doesn't work. Or what we've seen in this example, what did we learn? Now reapply those learnings to come back and do it better. And that's exactly what we saw. But if you're a brand that just went, I guess that doesn't work, and walk away, you've missed this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The do it better component, I think one of the clearest distinctions between 23 and 24 here. QR code's great. Like obviously that added some value, but the actual targeting components that you mentioned, Ross, of really AMC being the foundation of audience creation rather than off the shelf. I wanted to unpack that a bit because these are both from Amazon, right? If I buy an off the shelf Amazon audience, it's from Amazon data. If I use AMC to create an audience, it's from Amazon Ads ecosystem data. Like why is the AMC stuff so much more powerful, at least in this one case?
I think that's a really good point. So just to make it super clear what the difference was, purchase rate for our AMC campaigns was almost double what the campaign average was. New to brand rate was about 25% higher than the campaign average. Detail page view rate was about 30% higher than the campaign average. So the AMC audiences measurably outperformed the off-the-shelf audiences from Amazon. And the difference really is in refinement. If Amazon's off-the-shelf audience is what everyone is bidding on, our AMC audiences are crafted custom to be hyper appropriate to this brand and its customers in particular. And so we're buying a basket. We're not just buying a broad basket of inventory. We're going after a subset of people who meet a very specific criteria. Those people aren't as heavily bid on necessarily as others, and the costs are a little bit lower. They're also there's a higher affinity between who they are and who the brand is going for. And so the conversion rate's a little bit higher. They're a little bit more likely to go check you out on Amazon. They're a little bit more likely to purchase you. And that really adds up. The only drawback, and it's important to mention a drawback, is the reach is lower. So there's fewer people in that refined audience set than there is the Amazon's off-the-shelf audience. So if you're trying to play the reach game and get in front of 75% of Americans, this is not necessarily going to be your answer. But for a brand like ours, whose success is tied to what kind of sales they can drive with their marketing dollars, this is a very, very powerful lever to pull.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool.
When you think of STV, streaming TV, it's traditionally, you think of it as top of funnel. But when you dig into your findings for this case study in particular, and this is going back to a comment you made earlier in the conversation, Pat, as well, when you look at the path to purchase through a multi-touch lens rather than the last touch attribution, I can get the words out here, framework, you see that STV adds value all the way through the customer journey.
Yeah.
How is that changing the way you see yourself approaching STV campaigns in the future? I have a hypothesis of what you're going to say.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see if it lines up.
Julie and I have a side bet on this. Answer correct.
Did you parlay that to massive gains? No. We had this discussion internally. My strategist and I were talking about this. And one of his insights is why don't we buy retargeting inventory? Why don't we retarget people who viewed our product detail pages but haven't purchased us with this inventory? It's high impact. And I said, no. We got to focus on upper funnel. We're really trying to drive awareness here. And then as we started to look at the AMC data, what we saw is that this STV campaign is not always the first touch. It's not always the first step in someone's customer journey. It was very often in the multi-touch campaign funnel subset. It was very often the second or even the final touch. So it was actually the catalyst to a purchase of someone who'd been researching on Amazon for some time. It was the midpoint of someone's customer journey where they'd found us with a generic search. They'd maybe looked up our brand, but then when they saw the STV campaign, that really cemented the brand in their minds. What that told us is this isn't just an upper funnel placement. It's not just an upper funnel tactic. It's something that we can use in the mid funnel, something we can use in the lower funnel. And that was a very powerful insight.
That's what I was betting you were going to say. You won, Jordan.
yeah, that's why I take out another line on my mortgage to cover these podcast bets.
That's not to say that I would recommend that everyone go out and buy streaming TV inventory for their retargeting as opposed to upper funnel. It is expensive inventory. So your dollars are necessarily not going to go as far. But as part of a full funnel strategy for a brand that's got the investment where it makes sense, I actually think buying this inventory at all stages of the funnel makes a lot of sense, especially with the more engagement-focused creative overlays that we have now to add to cart or to learn more or to scan a QR code.
I just wanted to kind of amplify what Ross just said there, because I think one of the key takeaways, and this is true as always, but good to reiterate, is matching up what success looks like, what goals are for an advertiser is absolutely key in them to driving what the strategic and tactical approach would be. If it's just binary, I don't currently use streaming TV, I think I'll do it now, and then seeing what happens, it's tough, but we can go in and set expectations and say, what are you looking to get at? Are you looking to drive sales? Is it new to brand? Are you looking to raise awareness because you're launching a new product? There's no wrong answer there, but making sure we are matching up what is the goal, what are we looking to get out of this with what we're doing, which I think Ross just detailed really well. And then not that this is a bold prediction, but I think the next phase of this will be the content wars, the creative wars. Is there's going from I'm not doing it to doing it. And then there's going to how am I really specifically matching my creative in my ads to the shopper in that AMC target segment at this moment in their customer purchase journey. And once we nail that, you're unlocking real performance gains.
It's funny because you highlight something that's really valuable about this campaign 2023 versus 24. In 2023, we had something like 6 creatives that we ran to see what would perform best. And they were all very brand focused, so no real product details in them. This year, we focused on one product. The creative was very focused on the benefits of that product. We've seen outsized gains, not to their top selling SKU, but to the trial size SKU. So a lot more people are coming in and testing out the product as first time buyers. And now our game is to retarget those people and turn them into loyal customers.
Awesome way to use the gateway ASIN reporting in AMC to say hey, how'd you get your foot in the door? Yeah.
How do we do?
You both kind of were teeing up what was going to be my final question, but then I think, Jordan, you might have another. So I'm going to jump ahead since it's... What is the profile of a brand that's ready to test this out? What does it look like from a minimum budget commitment, or what their strategy looks like across ad types, across the funnel? How would you kind of paint the picture of a brand that's ready to dig in and put this to play?
A really good way to think about this here is this is a portion of the brand's overall spend for the year. If I go back and I think about the numbers, it was probably close to 10% of their budget overall that they spent on this campaign. So that's sort of thing the first. I wouldn't be saying bet the farm on this tactic because it's part of a broader basket of tactics that I think lead to success. And that's what we saw too, right? Streaming TV alone is only a part of the story. You actually need all the other ads running at the same time. So that would be sort of my first guidance. And then my second guidance would be is, given the expense of the inventory, it used to be, I want to say around $30 CPM for CTV or STV when it started. But now I'm seeing, especially with this campaign, closer to 22, 26. I would say what that leads me to believe is that you can actually buy a reasonable amount of inventory now for the cost. It's definitely higher than normal DSP. So I would be setting a floor of somewhere around $20,000 to $30,000 a month as a minimum streaming TV investment, because I want to be able to actually get enough reach with my investment that I can make a measurable judgment of its impact to my campaign. If I only invest $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000, given the CPMs, it'll be very hard to statistically significantly say, yeah, this moved the needle. It wasn't just a random variation.
Moving the needle then goes to my final question, which is, we have one case study where we clearly see NTB, new to brand increase, and detail page view rate increased, and some of those key metrics that you outlined, Ross. But as we get more and more of these, as brands run more and more of these, do you see this consolidating around 2 or 3 metrics that become the sort of golden STV success metrics? How much of this is, as Pat mentioned, derived by the goals of the brand, starting from that as your sort of first principle and then backing into metrics? What does full funnel measurement for STV look like from a purely metrics and measurement standpoint?
I really think it depends on the goals of the brand. So we have some other brands that are doing STV investments right now, and they're really interested in maximizing their audience penetration. So they want to make sure that the number of times that one person is exposed to the ad is not too high so they can maximize their penetration of the people who are like in the right bucket of audience that they're going after. So for them, the KPI is very different than this brand that we worked with here, where they were really interested in understanding what are the sales-driven KPIs associated with this? What is the brand building capability of these ads?
Makes sense. So different for each brand.
Different.
Yeah, no, it'll continue to be complex but important.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think we can say with guaranteed is that even if it sounds expensive or if it seems out of reach, even emotionally out of reach for a brand that says that is not the kind of thing that we do or we can do, the guarantee we can make you is CPCs will continue to go up. Mm-hmm. If you're over-indexed on branded search, you continue to fish the same pool of shoppers and you're not reaching new shoppers. It's an absolute imperative to reach the next shopper, the next incremental shopper. Who are the folks? And we can do this all the ways Ross outlined with AMC to reach who's that next highest customer lifetime value customer. You have to be able to expand who you're reaching out to today so that you can continue to capture that demand tomorrow. And it's not going to happen on its own. So this is a great opportunity.
That is the perfect bow on this conversation. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed learning more about this case study in particular, and I'm excited for us to add a new show to our series, including a case study where it failed miserably.
It'll be the Big Stinkers. Pat, you'll be the new host of our Big Stinkers episode.
Case study's gone awry.
Yeah, I can't wait for that episode. We'll bring you guys back. So thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Julie.
Take care.